Yo guys, it's Yumi and I'm back with another video. In this one I'm going to show you how to burst as a Destro Warlock. After watching this video, you will know how to one-shot unprepared opponents. Alright, so in this video I'm going to go over two things. The first thing will be how to generate burning embers at the fastest possible rate, and the second part will be how you can get your burst off and actually finish the enemy, rather than have them survive forever at 10% and never die. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing to know about Warlocks is generating burning embers. Burning embers are your resource as a destro, and you won't be doing much without at least 20 of them, ideally 30. Now, when I say 20 or 30, you might be saying, wow, usually 4 shards. Well, actually the way it works is burning embers are individual, and it takes 10 to fill up a bar. So you need 4 bars, or you need 10 per bar, which is 40 for 4 full bars. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're building up your embers and you want to know how exactly you are building embers. What you're going to want to be doing to build the most embers the fastest is make sure your Rain of Fire is going as much as possible. Rain of Fire builds an enormous amount of embers, and I believe it increases based on the number of targets it hits. So when you see mirror images, you want to immediately slam your Rain of Fire on them. Another thing to note is that Immolate increases its damage by 50%. It's not a ton more damage, but it's something to remember. The next thing you want to be doing is immolating multiple targets. The more targets that are immolated, the more embers per second. Another thing is that Conflagrate is great for generating shards, and you want to be using it, but don't just spam it twice unless you need to burst. This is because you always want your backdraft procs up for when you're either incinerating or chaos bolting. So it's important not to just waste them and just use 2 in a row and then have it expire and not be able to use them later when it matters. And that leads me into the final thing you want to be doing, which is incinerating. A lot. The nice thing is Destro is that your fire tree is separate from your shadow tree, which has fear. So if they counterspell your incinerate cast, you can start fearing and setting up for when your fire tree isn't locked out. As such, I would not recommend faking as Destro. On to the next part. Alright, so this is the part I'm going to go over how to get your burst off and actually finish the enemy. There is only one real way of actually getting your burst off as a Destro Warlock, since Cast Bolt is so long of a cast. So what you want to be doing here is you want to make sure you have Backdraft up, because it reduces the cast time of your Cast Bolt by 30%. And the next step is using Unending Resolve, so you can't be silenced or interrupted during your cast. And then you want to pop Demon Soul on your activated trinket. The reason why you don't just cast 2 Cast Bolts is because generally after the first one lands, the opponents will react and use cooldowns, or try to stop your second one via stuns or gouge or whatever, some kind of silence or interrupt. If you do it the way I just said, it's all instant casts other than your 1 Cast Bolt cast, which is 2 seconds long. This burst is still harder to do without some assistance from your team, like a stun, but you can still pull it off. The next part of this is I want to say that you never want to go below 10 embers. This is because your Shadow Burn costs 10 embers, and you need to be able to get that execute at all times. So always make sure that when you're doing your burst, you don't get caught without 10 embers. Otherwise you'll end up with the opponent at 10% life, and he'll just get healed to full, and your burst will be completely useless, and you'll just wasted all your cooldowns. The last thing I wanted to go over is that sometimes you can't reliably get your burst off because of interrupts, grounding totem, etc. In these scenarios, if I still really need to burst, what I do is use Demon Soul and spam Incinerate, which still does very good damage, and has a faster cast time. If they lock out my Incinerate, I just instantly start chain casting Chaos Bolt. So sometimes, if you want to get some burst off in a hard situation, you should start spamming Incinerate for real damage. And if they stop you, you can just do even more. It's a win-win scenario. Okay, that's it for this video. I hope after watching this you now know how to properly set up your burst as a Warlock and can get out there and do some one-shotting. If you have any comments or concerns, feel free to post below.